Do you know yourself better? Are you more self-aware? Because in the first video of self-awareness, we talked about the first part of self-assessment, which is emotion. And we discussed emotional intelligence. And in this video, we're going to talk about your attitude. What's up, it's Gene. This word to be great. So when it pertains to attitude, I created this chart. Now, I know my handwriting isn't the best, but I did the best I could. And we're going to go through this because I believe that there are certain traits that will determine your attitude. And your attitude, as they say back in elementary school, would determine your aptitude or altitude. I don't remember how it went, but you know what I'm saying. So we're going to focus on these traits. If you have negative or positive traits. Now, as I go through these, I want you to practice self-assessment. I want you to be real with yourself because based on the traits that you see you have the most will determine your attitude, and it will also determine if you're reaching your full potential or achieving your desired success. So let me ask you this. Do you have, or would you say you have a pessimistic or optimistic attitude? When I was a kid, my mama put us in swimming lessons. And I remember going to this pool. I think the pool was called Reveille or something like that. So she took my sister and I. She said, listen, y'all going to learn how to swim. In case you're ever in a situation, you fall off a boat, you're not going to be a black person that can't swim. Because that was kind of like the joke back in the day that black people couldn't swim. So my mom was like, nah, y'all going to learn how to swim. Now, I'll be honest with y'all. I didn't want to go and get on these swimming lessons. I did not want to get in the water. I was terrified of the water. So we get to this pool, and I remember when we get there, the lifeguard instructor, whoever this lady was, it was this lady. She came up. She said, "Hey, we're gonna put these life jackets on you guys. You're gonna get in the water with the other kids, and I'm gonna show you how to swim." So we get in this water, and I have this attitude that I'm gonna drown. I'm never gonna learn how to swim. But my younger sister, on the other hand, she was excited. She believed she was going to be able to swim. And you know what ended up happening? I wound up not hardly learning how to swim. But my little sister, not only did she learn how to swim in about 3 or 4 weeks, she was jumping off the diving board, swimming in the deep water, didn't have her life jacket on. And I was so embarrassed because people was like, man, your little sister is doing better than you. You afraid of the water and she jumping off the diving board. See, the problem is that I was a pessimistic person. I had a pessimistic attitude. But my sister, on the other hand, she had an optimistic attitude. So you know what ended up happening is she got her desired success. She desired to be a swimmer. She wanted to be able to swim. And I did because I didn't have that desire, or I wouldn't allow myself to have that desire because of my pessimistic attitude. So when you're looking at yourself, be real. Are you a pessimistic or optimistic person? Because what self-assessment is going to allow you to do is become self-aware of this. Your attitude that you have about the things you want to accomplish, if it's negative, that is the reason you're not making progress. Now, the next thing I want you to focus on is, do you find yourself engaging in rumination or resilience? Now, rumination is when you are thinking about something negative over and over in your mind to the point you probably just give up on the thing that you're trying to accomplish. When I first got my first paid speaking engagement, I went to this high school, and I remember being so excited talking to the principal. He invited me in, and when I get to this school, I walk in there, and it's thousands of students. Now, here's the thing. I hadn't spoken to a crowd like that before. So I got up on the stage, and my mind went blank. It's this joke where people say, your body stand up and your mind sit down. Well, my mind sat down on that day. I froze up. I forgot my speech. I was up there rambling. It was an absolute disaster. When I got in the car, I started ruminating in my mind how bad it was, how negative it was, and how everybody was looking at me and I was a failure. And because of that rumination, I almost did what a lot of us do in those situations. I almost quit. But instead, I decided, you know what? I am going to move forward. I'm going to learn from this. I'm going to be a resilient person. And because I chose resilience, I was able to get better as a public speaker. I'm able to make these videos. I was able to get an authorship because I chose to be a resilient person. So are you a resilient person, or are you an individual that you focus more in rumination? When you have things that come towards you, your attitude becomes bitter and toxic because you're ruminating in your mind. You're thinking about all the things that's going wrong. Are you the type of person that your attitude is built on resilience? You tell yourself, I might have a hard time. Things may not go the way I want, but you know what? I'm going to get better at it. I'm going to keep going, because your attitude will determine if you get your desired success. But if you're a ruminator, if you always focus on the negative, it's not going to happen. But if you're a resilient individual, you're on the path to achieving your desired success. Now, are you an individual that is hopeless or hopeful? I learned as a kid that it's very important to have hope. Like, you should have hope for your future, because when you don't have any hope, it's very hard for you to focus on something great happening in your life. When I was a kid, myself and I had a friend named Troy. And Troy and I, we both had hope dreams. We had dreams of playing in college, basketball, hopefully playing in the NBA. But I learned something that was different between he and I. You see, Troy used to focus on that I'm never going to get better at basketball. I'm not going to be able to get out the hood. I'm always be here. So he went down the path of selling drugs, getting into crime. Now, I, on the other hand, even though I got in some trouble starting out, I had some hope. I believed that I could make things happen. I started reading these slam magazines about these NBA basketball players and how they made it out the conditions that I was in. So I used to say to myself, hey, if those guys can make it, I can make it. So what eventually happened is, because Troy was a hopeless individual, he could not see himself doing better. He ended up living a life of crime and going to jail and the penitentiary. And I, on the other hand, because I was a hopeful individual, my attitude was on positivity, I could make it out. I ended up going on to play college basketball, graduating, and doing a lot of things that I desired. So which are you? I want you to be aware of this. Which are you? Are you a hopeless individual? Or are you a hopeful individual? Is your attitude built on hopelessness that you can't make things happen? Or is your attitude built on a hopefulness that you can make things happen? Because based on the attitude that you have chosen, or that you are at this moment in your life, it's going to determine if you reach your desired success or not. So you only know the answer to this: if you're hopeless or you're hopeful. Let's talk about self-worth. Now, self-worth is how much we value ourselves. And unfortunately, a lot of us, we don't have high self-worth. Now, as I was growing up as a kid, my self-worth was terrible. And I didn't see myself as being somebody that's worthy of success. And that stemmed from when my dad left when I was 11 years old, 2 weeks after he told me personally he would never leave the family. So that destroyed my self-worth for many years. But over the years, my self-worth has grown because I forgave my daddy and I started putting myself out there in the world to do things that I was afraid to do, and it helped me develop self-confidence. But I remember when I first decided to start this speaking journey, I met this guy that I was real cool with. He was about 15 years older than me. And all we talked about was being professional speakers, using our stories. We both grew up the same way. And he had massive success in his life. I was having success in my life. And we wanted to go out and put the world on fire with our messages. But this was the problem. Even though this guy was 15 years older than me, he hadn't worked on his self-worth. You see, this individual, even though we had the same dream, he wasn't going out there putting himself out there because he didn't believe his message was worthy. He didn't believe he was worthy. He had low self-worth. Now, I, on the other hand, I was going to juvenile detention centers. I was speaking everywhere I could. I was putting my message out there, even when I wasn't even a good speaker. And the reason I was doing that is because I had a high or healthy self-worth. So what eventually happened was, that individual, my friend who was 15 years older than me, who was a talented speaker, he ended up giving up on his dream. But I, on the other hand, I'm living my dream. That's why I'm making this video. That's why I write books. That's why I get paid to speak, because I have a healthy and a very strong self-worth. So when you're thinking about your attitude, ask yourself, is my attitude built on a low self-worth, or is it built on a high or healthy self-worth? Because when you become self-aware of this is what's going to help you to start moving towards your desired success. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. Now, a fixed mindset will be like my friend Troy. He feel like it's hopeless. He can never get out the hood. He can work on his basketball skills, but despite all the work he will put in, he would never be good enough. He would never ever reach a high level of skill. Now, a growth mindset, which I call a worthy to be great mindset, is when you believe that if you put the work in, you will develop the skill. If you put the work in, you will develop the knowledge. You can go to a high level in your life because you have a growth mindset. Your mind is expanded like a parachute. You know that the more you expand your mind, the more you'll be able to survive and thrive in life. So I want you to ask yourself, when you think about your attitude, is it based on a fixed mindset or a growth mindset? Because I guarantee you, if it is on a fixed mindset, you will always quit. If it's on a fixed mindset, you won't give yourself a chance. But if you have a growth mindset, you believe that you can make things happen. You believe you can live your dreams. You believe you can make things happen in your life because you have a growth mindset, that word to be great mindset. You believe that you're worthy of the great vision inside of you. But if you have a fixed mindset, that's not possible. But with a growth mindset, everything is possible. I will say this. You are an individual that have an opportunity to reach your desired success, whatever that is for you. But you must be self-aware. And self-aware is taking responsibility for your life. It's taking responsibility for your greatness, that great vision inside of you. And the only way you're going to become self-aware is you have to take the time out to do self-assessment, which is not fun, which is not easy to do. Many of us try to avoid it. And as I told you in the beginning, self-assessment is a deep and honest evaluation of our own emotions, attitudes, and behaviors. Now, we have talked about emotions. We have talked about attitude. And on the last video of this series, we're going to talk about behavior. Take the things that we talked about today, and I want you to self-assess. Start moving yourself from the negative attitude, if you're there, to a positive attitude. You can do that by reading books. You can do that by doing courses. You can do that by surrounding yourself with positive people. You can do that by working on yourself because you know the areas you need to improve. So start self-assessment today. Become aware. Work on yourself because you are worthy to be great. If you like this video, I want to ask you to like and share this video. Also, hit that bell so anytime I post a new video, you are notified. I also want to ask you to join my Word to Be Great newsletter. This newsletter is designed to help you build your self-worth, your self-discipline, your self-confidence so you can achieve your dreams. So click the link below and join my newsletter today.